All right, everyone, it's no secret that I'm not really a fan of Mike Pence. I criticized the choice of Pence as running mate initially when Trump made that decision. He's a really religious dude. Now, I can understand like the Mike Pence behavior, like never being around any other female unless in the presence of his wife, just because we're in the Me Too generation, so at least he's immune to that, so I can sort of understand, I suppose. But other than that, like he's a really religious dude, and I think he actually is one of the few politicians that's genuinely religious. A lot of them, I think, just pretend. They're like, yeah, Jesus, Jesus, yeah, you know, Allah, Allah, Buddha, Buddha, whatever. And then at the end of the day, they don't really give a fuck. They're doing it for show to get the religious vote. Basically, it's a wedge issue, and it used to be a very, very open one. Like the Republicans, especially prior to maybe the late 2000s, very visibly wined and dined the Christian vote. They're like, oh, I love Jesus more than my opponent. Look, I go to church 3 times a week. No man can govern the U.S. without the help of glorious, usually white gun-toting Jesus, would say the GOP of that era anyway. Now it's more quiet. Now it's like Trump isn't religious. Like, he might go to church sometimes, but let's face it, Trump is not a religious individual. I wouldn't be that surprised if he's an atheist. So he has Mike Pence aboard, or not atheist, agnostic. He just doesn't give a fuck. He's irreligious. He gets Pence aboard. Pence is quite religious. So it's very funny now he's doing his Venezuela shtick, Mike Pence is. And now he's definitely going for the religious sort of angle. Because he's like, well, his new thing is Mike Pence focuses on Maduro's cracking down on religious leaders within Venezuela. And it's very, very funny because it's like, okay, that's like the last resort. When the U.S. starts talking to religious leaders in relation to a country that's collapsing, that's sort of the death knell of that country. It's sort of like, hey, maybe the Pope should call for a revolution in Venezuela or something. By the way, I don't think that's going to happen since the Pope is a commie. Yeah, Venezuela's on its last leg. It's not surprising, by the way, to see Maduro or the other socialists going after the one edifice there that still maintains some degree, some semblance of order. Because Venezuela doesn't have an economy. The government isn't able to effectively police everything, but the church, generally is. You go to Latin America, and even in the less religious enclaves there, like an urban enclave in a less religious country, religion is still of considerable cultural importance. So when your local priest says, Maduro's an asshole, that actually carries some degree of weight. At least starts a debate within the congregation, maybe spills out onto the street and, gangs of New York mode. That would be quite something. Only Maduro can't call in the troops because his troops are all busy keeping him from being killed at the moment. Very high allergen count, by the way, today. I can't help it. I've been fucking coughing and all sorts of shit. Middle of a massive heat wave. It's as stagnant as can be. It's going to hit 95 today. It's going to feel like it's in the 100s degree range. Now, for those of you in the Southwest where it's nice and dry, you're like, oh, that's not that high. I saw 120. Yeah, I did in Texas, too. I saw like 115 degrees several times, but it's a dry heat. Here it's quite humid, totally different, so don't fucking get me. This is more like Tampa Bay weather right now. It's like if I want this kind of weather, I'll go and I'll build a stilt house down in the Everglades, and I'll be like one of those wild men that has a boat and not a car because there's no roads, and I'll just eat gator all day and fucking have a little smokehouse and make gator jerky, and I'll make my living that way. I'll sign up with Amazon, and twice a week they'll send a drone to my house, and I load it up with the gator jerky for sale through their distribution facility, and then they handle it. And then I can make enough money to maintain my stilt house after I pay the corrupt government of Florida not to plant crack on my shack, so to speak. A little bit of a rant there. But I expect Mike Pence to be quite happy in such a lifestyle. At least he can be hyper-religious. It's just he has to boat to church. I'm wondering, someone look this up. Is there like a church down there with a parking lot that's made of docks instead of like a normal thing? Because everything's aquatic. That'd be really funny if there was like an aquatic church in the Everglades. And then it'd be sort of like the religious iconography of the children of Adam, I assume, but it'd be a little funny. Mike Pence is kind of a cringy dude. I'm not really a fan. He looks even topically, like on the outside, he physically appears similar to George W. And it's kind of triggering having gone through that, one of our worst presidencies in all time. Basically, we got Bush, he's a loser. Then we got Obama, he's a loser. We finally got someone sane, and his VP looks like Bush. It's becoming a real problem. But Mike Pence, other than, making sure not to go anywhere without his wife, I think is generally kind of a cringy dude. But it's kind of weird when the United States starts dragging spirituality into diplomacy. It always gets a little bit weird for me. Like, I don't hate it. I don't have like a problem with Pence being religious per se. I mean, I'm gonna laugh about it because he is, but I don't have a problem with it per se. I do have a problem with the idea that any aspect of our foreign policy would be governed by invisible entities. I think that's probably not the direction we need to be going in as a country. Just saying, and I know that might even be an unpopular opinion. Some people are like, well, Jesus. I was assured that the country would be in a depression because gay marriage was legalized by now, but instead Trump gets elected and the economy's soaring. So, I don't know, it seems that sodomy didn't destroy us, at least not yet. I guess God has so many legions of destroying angels that it's taking him a long time to form them into ranks. Like, they had so long of so much religious peace that now, they're undisciplined and unruly, and Jesus is up there like that dude from Mulan trying to train them in combat right now. And, they're all whirling around like a bunch of ninjas and shit. This video's gone completely off the rails. I just can't help it. It's too hot for me to remain focused at the moment. So fucking sue me. That's about all. Peace out.